Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, and Rotarians and guests, to the most fun club, the Rotary Club of Little Rock. So before we get started today, I'd like to invite Grant Cox up to the podium to lead us in the five-way test, pledge, and prayer. And then Lori Arnold-Ellis is going to come do guest introductions. And then our membership recruitment chair, Elizabeth Cloxton, is going to introduce you to our newest Club 99er. And then after Elizabeth, Club 99er Kelly Fleming with Habitat for Humanity is going to come up and make a quick announcement. So, Grant?
Good afternoon, Rotarians. All right. We'll start with the five-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Is it fun? Thank you. If everyone will bow their heads. Creator and Sustainer, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen. Please join with me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And now we would like to welcome our wonderful guests. So when I list your name, if you'd please stand up with your member who has brought you, and we can all applaud you at the end for being here. Our guests today are Sophie Ozier, who is the guest of Holt McConnell, Chris Wyrick, guest of Mary Lackey, Amy Davis, guest of Scott Davis, and Matthew Dawson, guest of Clay McKinney. And we also have a visiting Rotarian, Joan Schofner, from the Conway Noon Rotary. So if we can give everybody a great round of applause and welcome for being here.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm excited once again to welcome a new member. This time it's Danielle Colley to our club. Danielle has a degree in marketing with a minor in finance and real estate from the University of Arkansas. She is sponsored by Molly McNulty. Danielle was born and raised in Little Rock and began her career at her family's former business, American Imaging, where she mainly handled marketing and sales. Following the sale of this business, she worked in IT sales and then spent 6 years in sales at Delta Dental. Last year, Danielle joined the Jenkins Agency, a full-service life and health insurance agency. She was an inaugural member of our Rotaract Club of Little Rock and served on the board as membership VP. She spent 8 years in the Junior League, also where she served as VP of Membership, and was a member of Leadership Greater Little Rock Class 29. Danielle has been a longtime volunteer for Baptist Health, serving on the Baptist Foundation Associated Board of Directors for 9 years, 2 years as chairman, and moving to the Baptist Foundation Board in 2022. She is one of the co-chairs for the 2023 Bolo Bash, or was. Danielle is married to Kevin Colley, and they have 2 children. For fun, she enjoys reading, exercising, traveling, fun outings with her children, and spending time with family and friends. Please join me in welcoming Danielle to Club 99.
Good morning, good afternoon. Kelly Fleming with Habitat for Humanity here to share with you an upcoming volunteer opportunity this Saturday from 8 to noon in a neighborhood called Hope. Truly, this home at 1716 Montclair is in the neighborhood called Hope. There's also another nearby neighborhood called Love, and that's exactly what we're doing, is building love and hope in areas that need them. Miss May, the future home buyer of this house at Montclair, will be there to work alongside you. You'll be doing some landscaping, painting a front porch, and the garage interior. These are the finishing touches. She will close on this house soon. We'd love to have you come to the dedication as well. But please join us this Saturday at 1716 Montclair at 8 o'clock. We'll have coffee and donuts. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant, Lori, Elizabeth, and Kelly. I hope a lot of you come out on Saturday. It's going to be a fun day of working alongside the homeowner. That's great. And welcome, Danielle, to Rotary Club of Little Rock. We're glad you're here. All right. Also, as a reminder, our Top Golf Social is tomorrow. We only have a few spots left, so for those folks who are last minute, you still have a chance, but you got to let Karen know today and RSVP to her. So we definitely still have some slots in one of our bays and would love to have you. It's a fun group already registered. It's just going to be a fun outing. I think it's 5 to 7 tomorrow, so definitely reach out to Karen, let her know if you want a spot. And then as a reminder, our Board of Directors meeting is after this, so if you are a Board of Directors member, please make your way over to the Rotary office after our meeting. All right, so for our guest, each year we have a theme. This year it's the power of fun here at Rotary Club of Little Rock, and I give a little tip on fun, on the power of fun, and then we're going to show another fun member video. So last week I told you guys that I am back to tap class. So I've enjoyed it. I used to do it as a young person and loved it so much, so I'm glad I'm back at it. I can tell you the feet work the same, but the brain doesn't. Like learning those steps at age 49, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not 20-something anymore, but it's okay. It's going well. But another thing that I did in my 20s was I took an improv class over at the Arts Center. And I think I had big aspirations of like being on Saturday Night Live or something. I don't know. That was a phase of my life where that never really came to fruition, but you guys remember our good friend Matt DeCample. A lot of you know Matt. He had a career in TV and politics and improv. And so Matt and I actually met in that class, and he went on to start an improv group and continue really right up until he lost his battle with cancer. And Matt hounded me for about a solid year or two to be in this improv group, and it's literally one thing that I regret not doing because I know he had so much fun with it. But one of the things that I remember so much from that class with Matt and others is that we learned some tricks of the trade in improv, and one of those is the rule of yes and, which we practiced a ton in this class. So the idea of yes and is pretty simple, but something you really have to lean into. Whenever you're on stage with someone and they say something to you or make a pronouncement about the scene, you're supposed to agree with them. So in other words, say yes, no matter what is said, and even if it's a crazy suggestion, you've got to lean into it, and then you build on that. That's the and part, so yes and. So for example, if you're in a scene and somebody says, my father is Santa Claus, you don't say, no, he's not. You accept the idea, and then you propel the scene forward by adding to that. So in Tina Fey's popular book, Bossy Pants, it's such a fun book if you haven't read it, she describes it this way. And Tina Fey was, Saturday Night Live for a long time, great at improv. You are supposed to agree and then add something of your own. If I start a scene with, I can't believe it's so hot in there, you don't just say, yeah. We're kind of at a standstill at that point. She said, but if I say, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you say, what did you expect? We're in hell. Or if I say, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you say, yes, this can't be good for the wax figures, then you're getting somewhere. So that's how she explains it. The great thing is that all of us, no matter if we are improv actors or not, can use yes and in our lives. opening ourselves up to spontaneity and in becoming more adaptive by saying yes and it's the attitude really that strengthens our fun mindset that we've been talking about. So SNL alum Mike Myers, you guys remember him, he said improv isn't just a game, it's a way of looking at life, which I love that. So we can all use yes and to attract more fun, whether by suggesting new things or by enthusiastically going along with somebody else's idea. The more we use yes and in life, the more people we feel comfortable with in our presence, the more connected we become with each other. We'll have more opportunities for play, and we'll find ourselves more in flow. And remember, those are the three parts that lead us to true fun. That's connection and playfulness and flow. So this week is all about improving your art of improv and saying yes and see where it takes you this week. So that's my tip. So got a great video that I know you will recognize this person and appreciate some of his words of wisdom in this. So let's roll it.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's Denver Peacock, my family, Melissa, Presley, and Hudson. And this year it's all about fun. What are we doing for fun? Well, today our family's going to go up in our hot air balloon. So we're very excited about this opportunity. We've been talking about this forever. Our fun Montana trip. We've been to Yellowstone and Tetons, and now we're at Glacier National Park. And today we're going to have a lot of fun going up in a hot air balloon. Are y'all excited, guys?
Yes.
Hey guys, it's Denver Peacock, principal of the Peacock Group. And during my last year as Rotary President, I told all of you that I was going to take my family on a much-deserved fun vacation to the Great Northwest. Well, we did that and then some. We went to 17 states, 14 national parks, including one in Canada. We went to Badlands, we went to Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, went through all the amazing parks in Utah and Arizona and the Grand Canyon. We just had the time of our lives. It was spectacular. Whitewater rafting, riding up in a hot air balloon. We went to some of the most spectacular places that this world has to offer, and they're right here in America. We've also taken our kids out of the country. We've been to Canada and also to the Bahamas, and recently a 6-country Caribbean cruise. And that was a blast for all of us. And I've traveled quite a bit with Melissa. We've been to South America and a lot of other places around the world. We've been to concerts. I just recently got back from Las Vegas, seeing U2 at the Sphere. I took my daughter to Taylor Swift in Kansas City. That was phenomenal. We love going to Razorback games. Was there when Arkansas beat Kansas last year, and I've been able to travel all around the country. We've gone with them on Thanksgiving trips to Bahamas and to Hawaii. And so it's just kind of part of what I love to do. Obviously, I love to do little golf trips with my buddies, but those are some of the fun things we love to do as an extension of our travel. All right, so now to Natalie, Jason, Mitch, and Molly. Trust me, you're gonna spend a lot of time in Little Rock over the next year of your presidency. And when you get out, I hope you will take my advice and do something really big and fun and travel and experience things that you might not have otherwise allowed yourself to do. And I felt like it was important to my family that we do something really spectacular. And I knew that by giving so much to Rotary that I had built up enough reserves to do something spectacular, and I hope you will too.
Love it. That was an epic trip, Denver, so I got one in the works, so thank you so much. All right, so now I'd like to invite Club 99er and Director of DEI and People Strategy for Lovesac, Adrienne Collins, to the podium to introduce today's speaker.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. Voted one of the top confidence coaches in 2020, former professional golfer and TV host, Christina LaCour, hope I said that correctly, now works with an extensive list of clientele from around the world, including small business owners, entrepreneurs, and Wall Street CEOs. After years of battling low self-confidence and an eating disorder and tying her work to external validation, Christina has created what she refers to as the best life ever, which includes a multi-six-figure business coaching clients from around the world. Through her signature decision, faith, and action framework, Christina has helped thousands of clients curate their own best life ever, which for many of her clients include multi-six and seven-figure businesses. She is one of only a handful of coaches who specialize specifically in building confidence using a one-on-one coach model, because she believes it's the long-term accountability and support from working on both mindset and strategy that creates sustainable and enjoyable long-term results of self-trust and confidence. Life is short, and Christina believes that deciding it's your turn to create a life and business you're obsessed with is a decision. Are you all ready to decide? I welcome to the podium Christina LaCour.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Adrian. I Googled Rotary because obviously, thank you for asking me to be here, but I'd heard of the Rotary before. However, I never really realized what y'all's mission was. And so in a quick Google search, I saw that it is people coming together to create lasting change in this world. And it made me think about a question I was recently asked from one of my podcast guests on my Decide It's Your Turn podcast. And he says that he doesn't ask people what they do for a living. Instead, he asks them if they had the ability to change one thing in this world, what would it be? And I thought that was such a great question. So I'd like to start by asking a few of you. If you had the power, the superpower, to change one thing in this world, what would it be? Anyone want to answer that question? Politics. I won't go any further. This is not that kind of lunch. Anyone else? Which? Hunger. Another one? Natural disasters. Homelessness. All great answers. So when he asked me that question, if I had the superpower or the ability to change one thing in this world, what would it be? And I said it would be this. I would grant everyone the confidence to live in their purpose, to do the thing that they ultimately say they want to do. Because over the last 13 years, since I failed to become a professional golfer, I've realized that there's 4 main reasons why people fail to do the thing that they say they want to do on this planet. And today I want to discuss what those 4 things are, the lessons that I've learned that have not only allowed me to, what I say, live in my purpose and create the life that I'm obsessed with, like we said in the bio, but also allowed me to create millions of dollars in business revenue at this point in time. So I want to share what those 4 things are. The first one, why people lack the confidence, in my opinion, to do the things that they say they want to do, is their fear of failure. I am standing in a room full of hundreds of you, and I'm sure not one of you have ever been afraid to fail, right? No one in this room has ever been afraid to fail? Anyone? Am I the only one who's ever been afraid to fail? Well, I can tell you with 100% certainty, the reason why I failed to become a professional golfer was my fear of failure. I always felt that if I didn't accomplish becoming a professional golfer, what were people gonna say? You know, if I never got my tour card, what was I gonna do? If I never made the money, if I never got the sponsorships, I was scared to death to fail. And I'll tell you, over the last 13 years, that I have 100% certainty learned more from my failures than I ever have in my successes. And unfortunately, I think we live in a world where people are told that failure is a bad thing. And I would love for us to change that narrative, because I know for a fact learning from my failures has actually been able to get me to where I want to go and build my confidence and do the thing that I say that I wanted to do. And so I think if we change that narrative and become less afraid to fail and just realize it's part of it, and we learn the lessons and get to where we want to go faster, we would all be in a much better place. So recently on my podcast, I had a gentleman I interviewed. It was one of my favorite interviews of all time. I would highly encourage you to go listen to it, not for me, but because of the stories that were so wonderful. His name is T.P. Chopra, and he was the former vice president of GE Aviation here in the United States before he became the president of GE in India. You know that small company, GE? Well, he became the president of GE in India, and now he owns a sustainable energy company in India. It's hugely successful, and I had the pleasure of interviewing him, and he told me why he's not afraid to fail and why he's always afraid, or why he's never afraid to take those big risks in life. My audience listening who has, put perhaps business before family for a long period of time.
Yeah, I think as we grow older, Christina, priorities change, right? When we are down, I guess at our age now, we are look back at it, life's not that long if you really think about it,
it's so
right?
short.
And all of us are inconsequential in the big scheme of things, right? What amazes me is that even if you're Jack Welch, right? Jack passed away now, it's been maybe 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years now, I'm forgetting, somewhere around 2 to 3 years. And if I go to kids today and say, do you know Jack Welch? They have no idea who Jack was, right? And I think to myself, he was God for us, right? When I was a little kid, an associate at GE, I remember shaking his hand for the first time, and I was just a water boy in the company. It was like my day was made. I was like, wow, I shook his hand today. So that's what it is. And yet, so many years later, the next generation won't remember the guy. So it's as a result of it, it makes you think, what's life all about? Number one.
So that was one of my absolute favorite interviews to this day. I would highly encourage you to listen to it. The stories that he told about Jack Welch and about his career and how he got to be as successful as he was are truly incredible, and how he left GE and started his own company and became an entrepreneur who's so unbelievably successful. It literally was one of my favorite interviews of all time. So the number one reason why people fail, or the number one reason why people lack the confidence to do the thing they say they want to do, is the fear of failure. The second thing that affects a lot of people and allows them not to do the thing that they want to do is the feeling of inadequacy, not feeling worthy, or the good old imposter syndrome. So I can tell you with 100% certainty, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, not untypical, but I 100% struggled with not feeling worthy, not feeling confident. I had extremely low self-esteem. I always based my worth on the next thing. I called it the atta girl. When I make the money, I'll be happy. When I lose the weight, I'll be happy. When I get the tour card, I'll be happy, whatever it is. And unfortunately, what I've come to realize is that that is actually not the way it works. So as a Christian, I do believe that we were born worthy. You can't earn your worthiness. However, I also do believe that adequacy and not feeling like an imposter is built. I believe that it is built by taking action. So I always say that confidence is like a muscle. The more that you use it, the stronger it will become. I'd like to share a quick story with you where I felt like a complete imposter. So back in 2014, in the height of my professional golf career, so I never actually played golf on tour, but I also did a lot of corporate and charity golf events. So companies hired me to play golf with executives. I created business connections on the golf course. I was really quite fantastic at it, to be 100% honest with you. I was making great money, like clients were paying me like $10,000 a day to play golf with executives. It was a lot of fun. So in 2014, I was in Alberta, Canada, doing an event. I'd probably done it for them for about 5 years at that point in time. And in 2014 in Alberta, the oil industry was booming in Canada. Basically, they had more money than they knew what to do with. And the gentleman who put the tournament together came to me and said, Christina, we want to take this year's event over the top, and we want you to put it together. And in that moment, I was like, inside, I was like, what the heck? I can't do this. I'm not a sports agent. Who the hell am I to do this thing? Why are you asking me to do this thing? But I had already been starting to learn the power of the mind, and I knew that if I just took one action, I'd figure it out. So I felt like a complete imposter taking on this role, but he said, can you do it? And I said, absolutely. I went home that night and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was feeling completely inadequate. Well, a few weeks prior, I was a part of a golf tournament. I don't even really remember where it was, but the gentleman who was putting it on, his name was Peter Jacobson. And if anyone knows golf, you may know does anyone know the name Peter Jacobson? Few people in the golf industry. He was huge at the time. He had an actual events company. He brought in celebrity golfers. They put on these big events, these fundraiser charity things. So he actually knew what he was doing, but I was brought in a part of it. I never put it together. But I called Peter and I said, "Hey, Peter, do you happen to have the phone number for David Faraday?" And back in 2014, David Faraday was basically at the beginning of really his peak of his career. The Faraday Show was just about to start on television. He was a big deal. Did people know David Faraday in here? Probably more David Faraday than Peter Jacobson. Great guy. So I called Peter. I said, "Can you give me his agent's number?" So I took that next step. I was like, okay, call the agent. So then I called the agent, and I got on the phone acting like I knew what I was doing when I absolutely did not. Went back to my client, and I said, "Hey, I got Peter Jacobson, or I got David Faraday." So my client was thrilled to death. I ended up working it out with his sports agent. I put the whole entire event together. So like I had $100,000 at the time. I signed David for like $50,000. I organized his travel. I organized the event. I organized everything for the day, the men's member guest, like from top to bottom. So the day arrives that keep confusing Peter and David. David arrives at the airport, and so I head to the airport, and I am in this blue dress. So I cruise into the airport, pick David up, and I can tell that he is not exactly happy. He comes out, and he had been traveling for a long time. You just knew that he was stressed out. And I looked at him immediately, and of course, they lost his luggage as well. So I looked at him, introduced myself, and he's just like, basically like looked at me like, "Who's this girl picking me up?" But in that moment, again, I kind of felt like an imposter, like, you're right, I'm no one. But I really stepped into action and I said, "Let me handle this." So I go up to the Delta desk and I organize his luggage to be delivered to the hotel. We had a smaller dinner that night, the first night that I picked him up, and I had been doing my research on David at the time because I really wanted to make sure that this event went off without a hitch. And so we got in the car, and he has no luggage. We're headed to this event. I could tell he's quite grouchy, but I'd been doing my research. And fun fact, David likes hunting way more than he even likes golf. So I knew on the way to dinner there was like a Bass Pro, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to cruise into Bass Pro? Grab you something to wear. We can change at the hotel." And at that point in time, I started warming up to him. So we went to the dinner. It was absolutely a fantastic dinner. The next day, the event went off without a hitch. And that event taught me two things. Number one, you're only an imposter if you're pretending to be something you're not. I knew that I could figure it out if I just kept taking those next steps, that next step and that next step. And the other thing is what else I learned is that adequacy and not feeling like an imposter is built. You 100% can just take that next step to build that resiliency muscle, to build that, not feeling like an imposter. Still to this day, David and I are good friends, and that event really took my career to the next level in putting together those events. I've done numerous events with David from that moment on. So that really taught me in that moment that, the imposter syndrome can go away by taking those actions. So the third thing that I think holds a lot of people back from having the confidence to do the thing that they say they want to do is the lack of resiliency. So in my career now as a performance and mindset coach, a lot of my clients come from referrals. However, a lot of my clients come from social media. And as most of you probably know with social media is that on social media, you can say whatever the heck you want to say. And 90% of the crap that's on the internet is just that. It is crap. And unfortunately, I think that we live in a society, especially in my industry, like the social media coaching space, performance space, people say crazy things like, make $1 million from your couch, or $10,000 a day, or you don't even have to work hard, and if you just visualize it, it will happen. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a big proponent of the visualization. I'm a big proponent of that. But one thing that I believe to be true, and sitting in a room full of very successful people, I'm sure you agree, that you're gonna have to work hard. You're gonna actually have to do some hard things. And resiliency muscle is unfortunately something that we are being taught that people don't need. And I think it's one of the biggest keys to success personally. Your willingness to fail and get back up, your willingness to figure out a way to yes, basically. So in 2019, a quick story for you on this resiliency thing. So in 2019, I had the pleasure of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I wonder if that's the next slide. Oh, there it is, perfect. So I had the pleasure of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with a group of people from Canada, and a quick story on that in a second. But on that trip, I was climbing with a mentor of mine, a gentleman who has literally the most positive attitude on the planet. He's probably got 4 to 6 businesses that all do well over 8 figures, extremely successful, good friend of mine, extremely positive, and he told me something on that trip that I share with a lot of my clients, and I believe it to be true. He said in his life and in his business, he believes that there is always a way to yes. And your ability to believe and know that there is always a way to yes for anything that you want is one of the reasons why he is as successful as he is. His PMA, he calls it. And if you know anything about Napoleon Hill, is anyone Think and Grow Rich? Anyone into that kind of stuff? Am I the only one? You should really read those books. They're fantastic. But positive mental attitude, always finding a way to yes, is, I believe, one of the biggest things that you can possibly do in order to have the confidence to do the things that you say that you want to do. So going back to Mount Kilimanjaro, another quick story in resiliency. So in 2019, like I said, I had the pleasure of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and how this came about, it was kind of funny. I was doing a charity golf event back in 2019. At that point in time, I'd really stepped more into the career that I have now, the performance and mindset coaching. But I had been doing this golf tournament for over 10 years. I had a really great repertoire with the charity. It was a children's hospital in Canada in 2019. And the day before the golf tournament, I had, we'd always gone to dinner the day before. I'd raised like $500,000 for this children's charity over the last 10 years. Great, really got on really well with the board members. So we had headed to dinner, and we're just, shooting the stuff, and sitting at dinner, and they said, hey, do you know what we're doing next? And I said, aren't we playing golf tomorrow? I was like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Like, no, we're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And I said, oh my God, how cool is that? And the president of the board at the time said, you should come with us. And I was like, oh, okay, well, 2 questions for you. 1, where's Mount Kilimanjaro? For those of you who do not know, because I was the only one in that room who did not know, it is in Tanzania, Africa. So the second question I had for them was, okay, cool, how long do we have to train for this? Like a year, 6 months? They're like, we leave in 30 days. You have to sign the paperwork in 2 days. I was like, oh, okay. So next morning, went and did the golf tournament, flew home that night, and I came home and I sat my husband down at dinner and I said, babe, so the Stollery asked me for something, and he's like, yeah, they always ask you to work for them. You're not moving back to Canada. I was like, amen to that, American citizen, most proudest one you'll find. But I said, no, they actually want me to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro with them. And he's like, oh. And he said, okay, well, 2 questions for you. Number 1, is it safe? And I said, well, there's 2 other females going, there's 9 guys going, and apparently it's the best guiding company that money can buy. So I'm assuming yes. And the second question he said was, well, our family motto is we do hard things. So you better start training. And in that moment, I knew that I had to do this thing. And so it was September of 2019. It was 115 degrees. Y'all know this. It was 115 degrees. And I literally ordered everything on that packing list from Amazon. The only thing on that packing list that I actually had that I didn't have to order was toilet paper. But everything else on that packing list I had to order, from boots to bags to, just the list is crazy of all the things you needed to do. But I strapped on those boots, I signed that paper, and I literally climbed Pinnacle twice a day, every day, wore my hiking boots on the Stairmaster at the gym. I swear to you, someone probably has a photo of that. I look like the biggest idiot on the planet. But I was preparing not to die on that mountain in 28 days. I actually created, and I'm a big proponent of the resiliency and all of the things, but a big proponent of the mindset behind it. So I created an affirmation that day that I signed the paperwork with 28 days before I left, and I said, I will summit healthy and safely. I will return home with a glass of champagne in first class. And all of those things became true. But I will tell you, if you want to see my Kilimanjaro journey, you can find me on Instagram at @bchristina, and there is a highlight that says Kilimanjaro. Even though I did summit healthy and safely, there was 12 of us, 3 people didn't make it to the top. I did summit healthy and safely. I did return home drinking champagne in first class and slept the rest of the way. But I did almost die on that mountain, which is funny now I can say it. Like 5 years later, I was like, yes, I actually did almost die in Kilimanjaro. And I remember like blacking out and saying, do not let them take me to the hospital. But all of that to be said, it worked out fantastically. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I would highly recommend it to anyone, even though I did almost die. So that that experience taught me the resiliency muscle about finding a way to yes and doing hard things. My husband and I actually, for the last, 6 or 7 years, we wear these bracelets every single day. My husband doesn't wear a wedding ring, but he wears this every single day, and it has our family affirmation typed into it. And one of the keys, one of the things on here is the hard things. So we are always willing to do hard things. So the fourth reason why people lack the confidence to do the things that they say to do, that they want to do in life, and I think this is the most important one, is a lot of people lack their why, their purpose. Like, why do you want to accomplish that thing? And with 100% certainty, the reason why I failed as a professional golfer was it wasn't my why. I was playing professional golf because I was told I was supposed to. I was told I was good at it. I was told that it was going to make me money and make me happy and do all the things. And I checked those boxes, a lot of them. I never got my tour card, but I checked a lot of the boxes, and unfortunately, I wasn't happy. However, along the way, I did learn that I was the person in charge of my happiness. I was the person in charge of my life. And when I took personal responsibility for my life and reprogrammed my stories, thoughts, patterns, and habits, I learned that I actually had the ability to create a life that I'm obsessed with. And I stand in front of you today knowing that I literally feel like I have the greatest, bestest life on the whole entire planet because I decided it. And figuring that out along my journey of the last 13 years has become my why. Helping people do the exact same thing has become my why, and it's the reason why I'm so confident at what I do. It's the reason why even when I'm afraid, even when I feel inadequate, even when I feel like an imposter, it's the reason why I can keep going. It's the reason why I've had the success that I've had is because my why is so strong. And so, in summary, I will say, literally, in order to have the confidence to do the things that you say you want to do, number one, screw fear. At the end of the day, we're all scared at some point in time, but life, like TP said, life is so short, it literally does not matter. Like, everyone is scared at some point in time. Just do the damn thing. Number two, adequacy and not feeling like an imposter goes away the more that you do it. Like, a lot of people think that they're going to be motivated at one point in time. I always say, like, that's backwards. You're never really motivated. Like, currently right now, my husband and I are on a program called 75 Hard. It's like, does anyone know what that is? 75 Hard? Oh, wow, like no one. Awesome. It's a stupid program, but a lot of people look at it as a weight loss program. I should have a photo of my husband would have shot me had I put that photo up there, but I look like an idiot on social media. Leanne knows, she follows me on social media. She's like, oh my gosh, my husband is the greatest human ever because he's such a great trooper about what I put on social media. But the first time we did 75 Hard, a lot of people look at it as like a weight loss program. It's 100% not. It's a mindset program. It literally builds mental strength, in my opinion. And the first time we did it, he lost like 18 pounds. But going back to like the reason why I brought this up is like most people think they're going to be motivated. I don't think motivation comes in the beginning. I think you start taking actions and doing things and you become motivated. And so to get rid of the feeling of inadequacy or an imposter or to start getting motivated, just remember, start taking actions and then the motivation will come. The third thing is that resiliency is built by taking actions and doing hard things. And a lot of people try to avoid hard things, but I will tell you, doing the hard things is really where the greatness comes in life, in my opinion. And the last thing I would say is just like find your why, know your why. It's so much easier to get up and keep going when you know your why. So thank you for having me so much today. I'm so grateful that I failed as a professional golfer because now I get to do what I absolutely love to do. And thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. You want me to? Yes, there's a mic up here. Do you want me to ask questions? Oh, sure.
Thank you so much. I really want to introduce my daughter to you or about you. My daughter, and I'll keep it brief, has been an awesome athlete, but she's not going to be a professional athlete. She's known that. What advice do you give to somebody whose identity has been in athleticism, but now needs to transition to something else? And she's got a lot of great qualities, grit, persistence, and she'll foul you if you mess with her. So all good stuff.
I love it. Yeah, I definitely have all those. Definitely one of my superpowers for sure is that, like, I am stupidly competitive. Like, beyond stupidly competitive. I would rather lose a limb than lose. I think the only reason why I'm actually somewhat decent at golf is because, like, I just do not want to lose more than I even care to win. But, you know, what your daughter is experiencing is, I think a lot of people in this room, if they were willing to be vulnerable, would probably agree that so many people tie their identity to what they do. You know, I work with both men and women, extremely successful men over the years, and men in particular have a much harder time tying what they do to who they are, and separating the two is quite hard. I would tell your daughter, if anything, just find the thing that brings you the most amount of joy and really stick with that. Most amount of joy and really stick with that. And, like, at the end of the day, sport is just all of the lessons that she's learned from sport are fantastic. That interview with TP, he said that in his career at GE, he hired two people more often than not. He said he hired athletes and service people because those people are extremely competitive. They're resilient. Their willingness to, like, get back up when things go wrong. Their self-determination. So I would just tell her to figure out what it is that she actually likes and just know that her athletic career has probably given her so many tools to make her successful in the next phase, and also, like, to make it more fun. I wish, you know, people always ask me, like, what would you have told yourself when you were younger? I was speaking to a group of women, I don't know, a few months back, and there was two young girls, and the mom stood up and she's like, what would you tell my kids about being successful? I was like, oh my God, if I could go back to my, like, 20-year-old self, I'd be like, actually enjoy it, actually have fun, trust that things work out exactly as they should. And I think that that's, like, one of the biggest things. And it's so hard to do when you're in it, for sure, but I think that that would be my best advice. Thank you. Over there. Oh, sorry. You got to go check out my IG highlights. And huge warning, Leanne and I were talking about this before we go. I just completed a speech without cussing one time. And if you know me, that is very hard for me to do. So be warned that my social media, I do cuss sometimes. I am originally from Canada. I definitely don't fit in the South sometimes. I love the South. I am I am Mrs. Arkansas. I freaking love it here so much. But I definitely have a potty mouth, so be careful with your daughter. On Kilimanjaro, how I almost died, it's so funny. So One of the things about Kilimanjaro that a lot of people struggle with, like I mentioned, there was 3 people in our group of 12 that didn't make it, and a lot of them suffered with altitude sickness. And unfortunately, altitude sickness doesn't really matter if you're in shape, how old you are. Some people just acclimatize to it more so than not. And I'm not like a professional on this, so there might be someone in here who's a climber that knows more. But when I got to the top of the mountain, I was climbing, and like, I wish I could show you on my social, but I was climbing the day that we summited. They wake you up at like, I don't even remember. It was like, some people who do Kilimanjaro do it when it's like 15 degrees Fahrenheit, like not too cold at all. Ours was like -45. They wake you up at like 3 in the morning. You're like, it's miserable, and yet it's the greatest thing ever because you're full of adrenaline. But I started having breathing problems. I can't remember how many hours into it. So summit day was like 8 hours, and I started like having oxygen problems at like maybe 4 or 5 hours in. And they kept testing your vitals. Like, so every morning you woke up on the trip, you had to test your vitals to make sure everything was fine in order for you to continue to go on. And that day, like, I just wasn't feeling really well. And so I got to, there's 2 different peaks. So I got to the first peak, and they tested me, and they said if my, I don't know if it was like my blood oxygen levels had gone down or whatever. But anyway, I ended up summiting, but they only allowed me to stay up there for 1 minute. They're like, 1 minute, get your photo, and we got to get you down. And so I went down with a separate guide that day. And once I got down to the tent, they gave me this brain swelling medication, which I was prescribed. Like, you had to have all of these prescriptions before you went in your backpack just in case you needed them. And I had chosen at the time, I'm not really a huge medicine person, and there is an altitude sickness medicine that everyone was taking. I chose to take 2 Tylenols a day. I felt great up until it. Like, I thought I was gonna come home like super fit and like super ripped and skinny. I ate the whole time. I like gained weight on Kilimanjaro. It was so weird. But I felt so good the whole entire time until the last day. So they gave me that medicine, and I actually ended up having an allergic reaction to that medicine. So everyone on the mountain, when you go up, you start feeling sick, but when you come down, as soon as you start getting better and better altitude, you start feeling awesome. Well, everyone in our group, 11 people, started like all the energy in the world, got back to base camp, having cocktails. I am like not good. And I had to crawl into my, like when we got back to the lodge, I was crawling in. And this was like so trippy. Like, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. Well, I didn't have service on the mountain. It was the first time in my whole entire business that I'd ever not done social media. But I was recording myself the whole time so I could post it when I was done. And I remember army crawling into like my thing, and I was talking into my phone because I recorded the whole thing to post later on. And I was like, I am not okay. And I kind of blacked out. Well, someone came into my room and got me, and they ended up calling the doctors. They didn't, so Africa is like, I don't know, 20 hours ahead or whatever, so they never contacted my husband, my parents, no one. But I was having anaphylactic, whatever it's called, anaphylactic shock or whatever. So I was starting to swell up. My throat was starting to close in. So thank God, we had a really good team around us, and they brought the doctors to the hotel, so I didn't have to go to. I kept saying, like when I was conscious, I was like, do not let them take me to an African hospital. Do not let them take me to an African hospital. But 2 of the girls on the trip were so kind. I slept with them, and they woke up like every hour to make sure that I was good. And then like 2 hours later, after they gave me this medicine and these shots, like the next day or the day after, I was totally fine and flew home with champagne in first class. But that's how it went. But
so
yeah,
I'm a golfer.
Yes, sir.
I'm obsessed with the game. And that's why I'm sitting here on the front row, because
I talked nothing about golf.
I was going to get a golf lesson today, so I'm not going to let you out of here without giving me 1 golf lesson. So I'm an 8 handicap, and I'm bound and determined to get to a 4 by the end. That's not fun, by the end of the summer. What are 3 things I need to be focusing on?
Does that pencil have an eraser?
Yes.
Well, then you're good to go. No, what do you want to focus on? Do you practice? Short game, practice. There you go. And it's also like mental. Like, I believe that golf is when you're up at the top, golf is 98% mental. Every single person on the PGA Tour can win on the PGA Tour. It's the difference between who can mentally handle it or not. And I think that's professional sport in general. Do you want this? No. Oh. I think that's just professional sport in general. Who can mentally handle it? Do you see yourself, do you believe that that's true?
The problem is I can't handle success on the golf course.
Yeah, that's mental. Well, I know why. It's because you're like, oh my God, I'm about to have my best round ever. Do you know when you play your best golf? Do you want to know why I'm a better golfer today than I've ever been when I was playing? No? I write down my scores. Heck yeah, how do you think I get paid? I want to make money on the golf course. I say the best part of my week is my once a week I play with my old man buddies. It's like the greatest time ever. But why it's the greatest time ever is because I'm just so focused on how grateful I am to get to play golf every single day. And I have so much fun doing it. Like, I'm obsessed with whatever I get to do in that exact moment. It's just like the present moment thing. Like, I just feel so much gratitude for getting to talk to you right now. But when I'm playing golf, the minute you start thinking about the score, the minute you start thinking about your swing, the minute you start thinking about all the crap that you can think about on the golf course, the people who, it's kind of like the person who's making the free throws or whatever that is just not thinking about it. It's so easy to do it when you're actually in the flow, right? It's like the mindset, the flow. And on the golf course, unfortunately, what happens most of the time is you're like, oh, birdie, par, I'm about to do it, and then boom, double, because all you're doing is thinking about it. So it's kind of coming back to like, what's the process? When you were having the birdies, when you were doing the things, chances are you weren't really thinking about the score. You were just in the moment, swinging the club and having fun and focusing in on the process much more than the result. You're welcome. Yes.
Well, I didn't think anybody else would ask you like what he just asked you, but yeah. As someone who is now in my 7th decade of playing golf,
yes.
I know that golfers love to reminisce about stories they have on the golf course, and I'd like for you to share with us one of your, say, top 5 favorite golf stories.
My personal?
Yep.
Okay. Probably I would go back to, so for those of you who don't know, like I said, I was born in Canada. I moved to Arkansas when it was later in life. I took off 3 years between high school and college, so I came down here in 2002. So I've been down here 22 years, which is insane to say. I don't feel even 22, but I guess I'm really like 40-something. But anyway, came down here. I took up golf at the age of 18. So I got very good very fast. I had never touched a club. I grew up around golf. Like, I worked at a golf course since I was really young, but I never played junior golf, never touched a golf club until I was 18. I went backpacking, traveling through Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, came home when I was like 18, started working at the golf shop, and I'm a huge tomboy at heart, and the guys went to go play golf every day after work. So I'm like, well, I got to learn how to play golf if I'm going to hang out. So I took up golf when I was 18. That first summer, I broke 190 and 80. The second summer, I won the first golf tournament I ever played in. It was the City Open. And then I won 2 right after that. In my 3rd year, someone I knew from the golf industry, like working in the golf shop, said their son went to Central Arkansas and they were looking for girls. Would I be interested? And I was like, sure. I came down here, I had like partial scholarship the first year, but coming to college, I had never hit out of the bunker. Like, I had a partial scholarship, and I convinced these people to give me a scholarship, and I had never hit out of a bunker. But I got really good quite fast. In college, I won 5 times. The first year out of college, I was doing a corporate event in Canada, and a few of the members at our club said, do you want to do this? Like, do you want to try to play pro? And I was like, sure, maybe I'll give it a try. I was going to go to law school, but I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try for a year. So I went to tour school, LPGA tour school, right out of college, my first year. And I went to that tournament just thinking, like, no one makes it through on their first time. So I just went, and I was dating my current husband. We've been together for 20-something years. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go to this tournament because he had an event out in Tahoe for work. And I was like, I'm just going to go to LPGA tour school. I'm probably going to miss the cut. Like, this was much before my mindset, because that's a bad mentality that I'm going to fail. But I went to it, and I ended up making it through the very first time I ever went to tour school. So I was in the lead after the first day. I birdied the first hole, eagled the second hole, and then I think I made a couple pars and a birdie. I shot my lowest round ever my very first time at Q School. Still to this day, my lowest round ever is 66. So it was at the Dinah Shore course in Palm Springs. So that's probably like my best memory, is like making it through to final stage of LPGA Q School on my very first try and shooting 66. So that was pretty good.
Do you work with any underrepresented groups, like young black girls?
You know, at my time when I was right out of college here, I worked with the First Tee. So I probably worked for the First Tee for maybe 6 or 7 years, right after I was done playing professional, or right when I was done college. When I was trying to play professional and I was doing the corporate events, I used to volunteer at the First Tee. I used to do a thing called Golfing with the Girls for 6 or 7 days, and there was a lot of underprivileged kids that were a part of the First Tee. I'll tell you, the Arkansas has one of the nicest First Tees. It was sponsored by the Stevens family, and it's absolutely fantastic there. To this day right now, the only thing I really do is one-on-one coaching and speaking engagements. But I'm not opposed to it. Anyone else?
Okay. I went home right quick to get myself on the bed. Okay, I'll do it right now. See ya. Okay, good seeing you now.
Thank you, Christina. That was really great. I appreciate it. And we have a little something for you. I'll bring it down after. And it's this next slide will show you. We have a mural that our club sponsored and commissioned down in the River Market. It's big on fun. That definitely plays into our power of fun, to remind everybody what a fun city we have and the power that they can also hold for fun. And I know your life has definitely, from golfing to Kilimanjaro, has been full of fun. So thank you very much. All right, guys, so not to be missed, next week we are celebrating the start of Women's History Month and the end of Black History Month, and we're going to have a lively panel of women who are going to talk about the legacy of Daisy Gatson Bates and some other women of color who have made their mark on Little Rock. It's going to be fabulous. I know a lot of you know the history of Daisy Bates, but there's several other women alongside her before and after that have really made an impact on the city, so we really wanted to pull that together, so it'll be a good one. Don't forget Top Golf. We have a few slots. You know, you just got some inspiration of golfing. Maybe you can try some things out, Robert, at Top Golf tomorrow. So we hope to see you there. And don't forget, Board of Directors, we're meeting over at the Rotary office. We are adjourned.